Tuesday, November 1st. The time is 6:30 p.m. and I'd like to call this meeting to order. Oh, my phone is ringing. I don't know where it is. Anyway, sorry about that. First up is our consent agenda. Minutes from October 18th. Any questions, comments, or concerns?
I only have one of the spelling of our visitor. KR instead of KL.
Say it again, KR instead of KL.
AUS. Yeah, I mentioned it to Jackie already. Even though
Okay. Excellent. Anything else? If not, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from October 18th.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Excellent. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next is warrants 26 and 27. Any questions or comments on either of those? I have them over here to be signed. If
I'll
not,
make the motion to approve warrants number 26 and 27.
can I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next up is visitors' comments. Any citizen wishing to speak before the committee must sign in with the administrative assistant prior to the opening of the regular session of the school committee. The visitor will identify themselves by name and address and shall speak for no longer than 3 minutes. I think there, because we need the microphone. You can come and stand.
Would like to speak?
Oh, you don't want to be on camera? Can we just have the microphone pointed towards you then?
Well, like pull it off and hand it to her, but ask the camera not to turn towards her, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anybody else need to sign in?
I don't know, there's a whole bunch of soccer moms on their way behind me, we had to wait for more kids to let all the kids out. There's like 5 of them coming. So hopefully they make it.
Are you going to be speaking? Okay.
Did you hear her that there were other parents that were
There's-
coming
yeah,
though?
there's
Oh, here we
some
go.
coming in.
Here comes some. So I'm just going to leave this over here.
It's all the moms that had to wait for the soccer coaches to get done, and we're all stuck with kids.
Is the door unlocked out there though?
Yeah, there's a thing in
There's
there.
a door, they put a door in, holding the door open.
The door stop is holding the door open. Okay, you can go. No, go ahead.
So,
First, please make sure to identify yourself by name and address.
Eileen Cross, 129 Pleasant Street, Granby, Mass.
Excellent.
I'm here for the concern of the vote going on tonight for moving the 6th grade over to the high school. In my opinion, these children are way too young to go over to a high school. I know you've met and you've had committees and you've had multiple things, but remember that the committee works for the parents and the students rather than administration. Yes, there's a capacity limit, but something needs to be done. This is K through 6. This is not K through 5. I mean, these kids are really upset. They're talking in the bus, they're talking at school. They're like, we're not ready to go over to the high school. We don't want to go over to the high school. We don't want to be mixed in with these other older children. Yes, they're children, but they're almost adults. I don't feel that that's appropriate for these kids. I mean, I'm not one for speaking out in public, but I'm coming here for my kids' sake. I'm standing up for my children, and this is not right, and I hope you guys are really going to take this vote to heart.
thank you for your comment. I just wanted it to be clear, we can't engage. It's really just sort of a listen. So I don't want you to think that we're just doing a thank you next. We appreciate you taking the time and coming and speaking to us. But I just wanted to understand that we hear you, and we have been talking about this for almost nonstop for about 2 years. So, you know, we're really trying to look at this from a number of angles. So I appreciate you taking the time to come in and speak. Next, Carrie Kraus.
We need it for the camera. Sorry.
Hi, my name is Carrie Kraus.
Address, please.
My address?
Yep.
80 Kendall Street.
Okay.
As some of you may know, I have 3 daughters in the elementary school, and this is Brianne. She's in the 5th grade. She will be turning 11 the end of June, which means 2 months later, we may be putting her in the high school. Just to give you an idea of what a 5th grader, Savannah's in 4th. When she turns 11, it will be the end of July. So she would be a month turning 11 to go into the high school. To me as a parent, that's really concerning. We also, I get nervous speaking in front of people, so sorry. So we also pulled our daughters from Blessed Sacrament to join this new school, which we were told goes through the 6th grade. So obviously, Brianne is directly impacted by this move. I'm not sure anybody's even talked to the 5th graders about what they want. And you can ask her. I believe that my child does not want to move. I do not want my kids to be brought up to the high school. They're young, they're at very impressionable ages, and I believe that we should be trying to find a way to keep them in the 6th grade at East Meadow Elementary School where they belong. And I also appreciate all of you guys and all the time and effort you've put into this, because I know it's a lot. So thank you for listening to me.
Erica Marsh.
Okay. I agree with,
Excuse me, name and address, please.
oh,
to
Erica
everyone who's
Marsh, 51 Lyman Street. I agree with Carrie, and I feel very much the same way. I feel like there's different ways, different solutions to look at switching things around, and a way to somehow keep 6th graders here. I just don't feel like they are ready yet to be over with 12th graders and be mingling in with the 12th graders. I understand that at some point we have to, because that's just the way that the building is built. But for me, I feel like it should be more of like a middle school, and there should be more of like a high school. And right now, I guess there's not a way to do that. So since that can't happen, I feel like they really need to stay here for as long as they can. And if there's ways to figure out, move people around, maybe some people may lose a classroom space, but any way possible, keeping them here would be great.
Is there anyone else here for public comment? Okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I appreciate you taking the time to come and speak to us tonight. Next up is our student representative, Marcus. Hi, Marcus.
How are ya?
Doing all right. How about you?
Good. All right. So, last Friday night, we had the Halloween dance for the middle school. Well, I guess up till 9th grade, so 7 through 9, which was Halloween themed, of course, and it was sponsored and put on by the high school student council. So a lot of us were there as volunteers to chaperone, and there was a couple parent volunteers, teacher volunteers, and it went incredible. There was so many kids there. Like, I think the biggest turnout ever we've had for a middle school dance in my time. We have the Mass Partnership for Youth Bystander Upstander presentation tomorrow, as well as the CELA survey, which is a social emotional survey. Those are both happening tomorrow at the high school. The trunk or treat was yesterday for Halloween, which we've been doing for 2 years now. Previously, we had the trick or treat through the high school. We had a great turnout for that, of course, as always. We have the Babysitting Academy offered through Bay State. There's further information about that in the RAM report, as well as the job board that's posted outside of guidance. Mr. Stapert won Staff Member of the Month for the month of October. We have the dinosaur repainting contest going on for the dinosaur out front of the schools. We're looking to include some sort of inclusivity and diversity into the design, and we're running the contest. Students are submitting their designs into, and we'll choose which design gets painted. Quarter 1 closes tomorrow for grades, which means that our first report cards will be coming out next week. I can't believe how fast this year is going by that it's already done with quarter 1.
How many days left?
132
Till graduation or to end of school?
till the end of school.
So backtrack by how many days to graduation?
2 weeks or so. We have the return of additional support available on Tuesdays and Wednesdays with Miss Funk and Miss Mahoney. A late bus also runs for that, so if you can't have a parent pick you up, then you can always take the late bus.
Is it late bus on both days, Marcus?
I believe so, yes. It's just Tuesdays.
Just Tuesdays?
Just Tuesdays. For sports, all our teams qualified for Western Mass. The boys are playing tomorrow in the Western Mass Finals. We have our annual December extravaganza returning in the works this year, so we still have to plan what that would fully entail, but it's just a way to kind of celebrate the holidays and give a little bit of an easier time during the holidays, just kind of a giving back to the student time. And then we have Brenna Moreno was selected as the new Project 351 ambassador for Granby. The characteristics of someone in this position is selfless service, potential for leadership, and they value kindness, compassion, humility, and gratitude. And if you ever met Brenna, you know that she has all of those, and everybody loves Brenna and knows Brenna because she's just a big bundle of joy.
That's putting it mildly.
And then for the last thing, we had the Fall Festival running over here, and we were able to have the 9th through 12th graders come over and volunteer and run the games for all the kiddos. All the student officers for each grade and a few other select were from each grade were brought over. So of course I was there. I was running the pumpkin bowling. I saw some people that I see here tonight coming through, but it was just a good time. Have fun with the kids, get to see them because we don't get to see them very often.
Awesome. Any questions or anything for Marcus?
The only thing that popped in my head was with the dino repainting, it's the high school that's voting on it, right?
Yes.
And I think historically it was both schools that had possibly voted on it. So it was the only thing I was like, oh, would there be any, I don't know why I didn't think of it last time. Like whether.
I mean, way back.
And I'm not like saying like, hey, do that. Like,
Yeah.
but I don't
Way
know.
back when I was in 2nd grade was when the dinosaur was originally painted. We had a contest.
Right.
Way back then in the 3rd grade.
So you guys got to
I know.
vote on it then as an elementary school also,
Yeah,
right?
so the 2nd graders
So
decided.
just
way
throwing
back
it out
then.
there as an idea, whether we want to include this school in the vote or not, I don't know.
I think we have a few years in here that
Yeah.
could work some magic on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you.
Okay, it just kind of popped in my head. I was like, wait a minute, last time. So, that's it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marcus.
Thank you, Marcus.
I'm just gonna grab my water.
I decided he needed to sit on the chair all by himself over here. our new business. The first is the McDuffie private school application.
I'm gonna come,
You may.
of course, please.
Evening, everyone.
Evening.
How are you?
I'm doing just fine. How are you?
Quite well. Nice
Great.
to see you.
Good to see you too. Our yearly visit.
Yeah. Not on Zoom, thank goodness.
Not on Zoom, which
Yeah,
is quite
also
nice.
good. I had to find this place again.
A long journey. So how do we, I don't remember how we normally go through this. Did we have your application? Has everyone had a chance to review it? Are there any specific questions? I don't know if
I think in the past, we've given Mr. Griffin an opportunity to share
Please.
anything that he wanted to about the application, such.
Thank you. Right. I will speak briefly, although I never met a microphone I didn't like. Just to say, this is my 12th year now at the McDuffie School. It feels like an eye blink. Coming down here to Massachusetts from Canada, and you know, the school has seen obviously struggled through tough times. Our enrollment, we're about 2/3 boarding, 1/3 day, and so COVID hit us pretty hard. We dropped nearly 100 students, and we have slowly climbed back from that. So we're at 203 students to start this year. I will say, and it's always been of interest to the Granby schools, we have 10 students from Granby this year. 5 of those are younger siblings, and 1 is a child of a staff member, just to give you a sense of sort of the draw. As I've always said, there's great reasons to go to prep school, great reasons to go to public school, and I think we continue to coexist well. I know my athletic director, I think, has recently been in contact with yours about soccer field availability, and we may be knocking on your door about gym availability in return. So I know in the past we've talked about ways schools can work together, and had decided a couple of years ago to tread sort of lightly and slowly on that. We are happy to be coming out the other side of the COVID outbreak and growing. We anticipate, we had a record enrollment this year with 111 new students. We anticipate growing our student population next year probably to the 230 to 240 range. For those of you who don't know, our record sort of high was at about 299 5 or 6 years ago.
So on
And I guess as always, I can always put in the pitch to say, we're happy to do this yearly, but also more than happy if you'd like to discuss having us come back in 3 years or 5 years. If you want to think about a process that maybe schools that have established themselves in your town might not necessarily need a yearly review, but I lay that on your feet, at your feet.
Any questions for Mr. Griffin?
No, I noticed the letter says that we currently have 11 Granby students, where you mentioned 10, but it's okay if we're citing I don't know if that since changed, but I doubt it.
Have to check our bookkeeping. I
Yeah,
actually
it's-
went and clicked the Granby button on our student information system and counted 10 today, so, but I will trust
Yeah.
my earlier submission. Go look.
Other than that, everything looks good. It's all stuff that's already on file. I don't have any additional questions at this time.
Any questions, anybody? No. If not, I'll take the motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the McDuffie private school application for 2022 to 2023.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And we will discuss about whether or not we want to extend the application. I don't know if we can do that now because it wasn't specifically on the agenda, but we can add that as a talking point. Would you be Would you be opposed to coming back?
Not at all, I'm sure
Speaking with
Donna
us?
and I would both be happy.
Yeah.
We would be happy, Donna.
Yeah. So,
Not that we don't like you.
no, I'm just gonna make appointments to go and visit you both.
That'd be great.
No, we'll, add that to a future agenda and love to have you both come back and we can have some discussion about that. I don't particularly know why we've been doing it year over year, but, you know, we can get into that, so.
I think it was inertia.
Oh,
Right,
Yeah.
so once you start doing it, it's hard to stop unless
Yeah.
you have a good reason to do so, so.
okay.
It was discussed a number of years ago, and they decided to continue on with the way it was.
All right, well, I think it's probably okay to revisit that discussion, so we'll add that to a future agenda. We'll reach out to both of you and see if we can coordinate a time.
That's great.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Miss Donna, for Children First.
Hi, everybody.
Good evening.
What he said. So it's our 5th year of operating a kindergarten. We've got a class of 13 this year. I did not click on the Granby submission to see how many, but we often have school choice as well. So it's not just the small Granby group, it's sometimes people from other communities who want to enter in at the first grade entry point. You know, we opened the kindergarten in 2017, and so we had 2 years before a class was impacted by COVID. So that class had a half a year and then did remote and a drive-through graduation. And so we've now done 2.5 classes just under COVID. But the outdoor motif worked so well with COVID. So they were able to, you know, because they were already committed to being outdoors over 50% of their time, those things just meshed so that they were able to have a typical, the past 2 years have just been a typical kindergarten experience, our typical kindergarten experience. That first, the 3rd year when COVID first hit and the shutdown, obviously it wasn't typical, but the 2 years after that were typical for them. So we are probably gonna pull up enrollment this year. Typically I do things in January, but I've got a big trip scheduled in February, and so I'm gonna pull enrollment up a little bit, so I might have some information a little earlier this year for you.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you.
Any specific questions for Miss Donna?
I'm just curious, because as you said, your enrollment right now is 13. Is that something that you are also looking to increase, or that might
We will never
possibly
go
increase?
higher than 15.
15.
That's our max.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No, just knowing that we appreciate that enrollment information. I know you already know, but
Absolutely.
we
I know
certainly
how
do.
it works.
The earlier, the better, and I think that just helps us kind of keep tabs on everything as best as possible and
For sure.
make important decisions, so thank you for that.
Yeah, especially now.
If there's no other questions, I'll take the motion.
I can make the motion to approve the Children First private school application for the 22-23 school year.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And we'll, we'll get back to you and Mr. Griffin as well and have some discussions, so we can see if we can extend that, so.
And I should say, we should probably plan another go-round of tours since you've got so many new folks.
Yes,
So,
happy to.
anytime.
Yeah.
All right. thank
Okay,
you.
I will reach out.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Next is a school calendar change.
So, we are requesting, and this is something that I've talked to the Granby Educators Association with, they gave some feedback on some dates, but we're requesting that we change our May 17th, 2023 early dismissal to May 10th, 2023. Reason being is, there is a high school MCAS scheduled for May 17th. And while some students might be done in a half day, we want to be able to make sure that they have as much time as can be made available to them. You might ask why we're finding out about this now. We voted February 15th last year, and the MCAS schedule came out February 22nd.
Awesome.
So we were a little ahead of the game, and now we're gonna have to do things
Yeah.
twice.
That doesn't happen to us too often to be too ahead. So we need a vote. Are there any other questions or comments?
No,
for
but just
that?
to be clear, like, that's not, for the high school test, that's not a date you can change or just say, we're
Yep.
gonna offer it on a different day, like, it has to
Has to be one
stand
day.
Yep,
on
and the
that
younger
day.
grades, we have a window in which we have to have the test done, but the high school in specific days, and there's specific reasons that you could get away from it, but a half day that was previously scheduled is not one of them.
I will take the motion if there's no further discussion.
I'll make a motion to change the school calendar for the early dismissal from the 17th to the 10th of May.
I will second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right, next is our school committee goals. Oh, why can't I get in? Here we go. So, last time you guys had your,
Just wanna make sure we don't submit it looking like this.
no,
Okay.
at our last.
This was our scratch documents.
Subcommittee meeting, but it's the only thing that we had, right?
I know.
So we can format it better.
Okay.
Everyone was gonna take time to think about this. Are we comfortable? Any additional tweaks? Anything?
Just to be clear, the first two were what we were proposing moving forward with. and
Right.
Kind of eliminating.
The bottom. Because the bottom one, we felt like is kind of part of what we do anyway, right? Okay. So by May of 2023, the Granby School Committee will update the school committee member handbook and will implement processes for onboarding new school committee members, formulate a subcommittee to update and review the handbook, and onboarding of new members. And the second is by June of 2023, the Granby School Committee members will explore opportunities for potential training and development of current school committee members, create a folder designated for training and professional development resources. Each member will research and add information, at least one resource, to school committee folder for potential PD opportunities. Any questions or comments or discussion on these at all?
I guess my only question is with the second one, as far as we're gonna create the folder for training and professional development resources, is this gonna be under continuing business, or is it a subcommittee? How are we going to, because the other one specifies that we're gonna formulate a subcommittee, I'm just curious.
We were just thinking about a folder that would live in our resources in our like school
In our
committee
drive.
primary folder in our drive. And we would add potential
More like a webinar.
webinars, websites, art, whatever it is that was of interest that we
So what we
could
could do is
access.
have a check-in maybe once every couple of months, try to have it be a tickler on the agenda, review what's in the folder, see if there's anything, or if some, it's always discussion, there's always the ability to have discussion, send an email or a text or something, I added something, just so that people are aware.
Yeah.
I
Right,
don't,
if you see something that catches your eye, then you're like, oh,
Right.
hey, everyone might be interested.
I just like the idea of having it live somewhere where maybe it's every, quarter or whatever,
yeah.
we check in and say what's in there and who added what was
So maybe
beneficial,
adding in
what
Quarterly check-ins.
wasn't, just so that we're keeping tabs on.
We can add like a third bullet that just allows for quarterly check-ins under continuing business.
Yeah, I
Right.
can work with Jackie on the meeting calendar, and we can just add it to the agendas as soon as tomorrow, just so we
Okay.
have it there.
It lives there.
Okay. Now that, can I update the document? No, I'm not sure where I'm at with that.
Well, it's still the same goal, it's
Right,
just.
but
But as
I'm
like
the
a
owner,
action
and
step.
with all of us on it, can I right now open it up and add that extra bullet?
I think so, I think we'll either
add
see
it.
you,
You'll do it?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just didn't know if I was allowed, since it's now like,
no, I think, because it's the link to
that
the
would be like
living.
an amendment that we want to make to the document, or is remove the
Well-
third paragraph?
We're gonna amend the whole document basically because it's in draft form.
Okay.
Right, in a way, like we're keeping the context, we're keeping the points, and we're talking about voting on what we're,
So we're voting on the context, when we post
Not
them
the
and
actual
have them,
form.
right, we will
Love it.
make it look pretty.
Perfect.
I think
It's
you
not
guys
pretty
can,
right now.
you guys can do that the next subcommittee
Okay, great.
meeting. and then we'll
Fantastic.
Have it, so do we want,
Pretty good.
I did too, I didn't know, get rid of the
I
bottom.
still have question marks in it, so it's not ready yet.
But,
Publishing.
we'll, shoot, I just had it,
Sorry.
it's gone, it's just gone.
Fair enough. I think we're just about there, though. Like, the goals themselves, I think, are fine, and then we have some actionable steps underneath, and that was our goal when we last met in the subcommittee, so.
Oh, that's what it was. So at our next subcommittee meeting, you guys can, have this, we'll have the goals, and then, if there's anything else that we need to flush out, but I think we're ready to vote on these. It sounds like we're comfortable with the discussion and everything, have the vote, and then at the next subcommittee meeting, we can have some discussion about how we want to tackle, if there's anything, you guys can meet and talk about that, and so we know, and when we want to review them by, and all, check-ins, and we can kind of throw them out and throw those dates on that calendar that we have, just whether it's a check-in or what have you, right?
Yes. Would we need it on our next agenda to formulate the subcommittee for that first goal?
Probably. That next meeting will be a subcommittee meeting, so it's a good time to talk about that.
Okay.
Probably won't meet until, sometime after the first of the year, I would guess, just because we only have one meeting in December.
Right.
So, we can talk about that, but I think it's good to have that live on the agenda for the next time. All right, well, if that's the case, I'll take the motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the school committee goals.
Can I have a second?
I will second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, updated junior.
Just so you know, Audrey, I made it in the Google Doc, so I just want to make sure that it reflects.
Yeah, it's not this was a PDF in
Yeah.
our folder, so.
Yep, so I went to the Google
Right.
Doc and updated that.
I just didn't know if I didn't want to touch anything.
All
I
good.
always get in trouble.
All good.
So I was leaving it alone.
Next is the junior, senior high school handbook updates.
So I provided some information to you all. This update is just to add some specific language around students who might apply to a career technical education program that is not Pathfinder. There are certain dates that application for a non-resident needs to be submitted to the superintendent of residence, and it had not been reflected in our program of studies or handbook, so we just wanted to make sure that it was reflected in those places. Right, we want to make sure student body is aware of those dates, parents are aware of those dates, in the event that there needed to be, there was ever an appeal or anything like that.
And that's the highlighted section, right?
Yeah,
Correct.
I was just gonna say, so there was nothing that was in there, so we're adding it, and this is in line with MASC language, or somewhere? Or did
No,
Kimberly look at it, or do we need to have her look at it?
This
or-
comes right from DESI.
Oh, okay, I knew there was a governing body,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
I picked the wrong one. I just wanna make sure, March 15th, okay, for the preceding school year. Any questions, comments, anything on this? Okay, I'll take the
Nope.
motion. Oh, did you have something?
Nope.
Sorry, I didn't mean to step
Sorry.
on you.
Nope. That was open.
I'll take the motion.
I'll make the motion to approve the updated information to the Granby Junior, Senior High School Student Handbook about the guidelines for the vocational technical education program for non-resident student tuition process.
I'll take a second.
I'll second. Oh, sorry.
Second.
Everybody's
Sorry.
fighting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So there's the program of studies, which
It's
is.
the same
It's the same thing,
update, but,
okay.
right,
I
it's the
just-
same
That's
update,
what
but
the
doesn't need a
document is.
vote, the
Okay.
handbook.
Oh, just so we have it, okay. All right, okay. Next up is our East Meadow capacity. Alrighty. So, we have been talking about this, I'll say fairly regularly since the last vote. I want to thank you guys for all of the time and research and conversation and everything. I think we've done a really good job of looking at things and talking about things, and it's 100% different than the last time. I feel like we're not trying to rush anything. We've really been very conscientious about everything. So as the chair, I just want to thank the committee because I think it's been tireless, and it's the last couple of weeks for me personally, it's been weighing on me. So I don't know if anyone else has had that, but I appreciate what you guys have been doing because it's a lot. So that's just my soapbox for the moment. So I don't know, we had said we would save some time for discussion to kind of go over things, last minute questions, things like that. So I'm opening it up for all of you to, feel free to just freely speak.
I'll jump in. I already visited with Stephen earlier this week too and kind of filled him in on my thinking a little bit.
He's been busy.
Oh, we're all visiting him?
Yeah, I've
I'm
had
like, hey,
multiple
can I call you?
phone
Hey,
conversations.
can I come over? Hey. Personally, I don't see a reason to have to do it next year. I can't see anything with our small kindergarten current class, the way that kindergarten's looking next year. I don't see a need for it next year, personally.
So this is what I find amazing, is that I'm going to say it like this, and I don't mean to be flip, but great minds think alike, because that is literally what I said to Stephen. Can we structure a vote so that it takes place at a later time?
That's what I
And
said
we've
too.
been adamant about not wanting to kick the can down the road. But what we have seen from looking at the numbers, things have adjusted. Like, we see enrollment numbers, we see census data. We had that information when we did this vote a couple years ago, and it didn't turn out to be a doomsday scenario. Did we have to make adjustments? Absolutely. But I do think we can't lose sight of it, whether it's this formation of iteration of a committee or another iteration of a committee.
And I also like having these discussions in October, September, like, not that the discussion won't start next year in April, May, June, obviously, as we're seeing more of the numbers, but like, we're not making a decision in April, May, and June for September, because, I work with someone that their district did it in August, and those kids started in September. Like, that's not fair. That's not okay. So, that's my own personal. Anyone else?
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
Well, no, I mean, when you say things are weighing on you heavily, like this, whatever I have here was, the culmination of like all of these meetings and thoughts and everything else. And I was like, I don't want to lose track of all of them, when we go to talk about it tonight. So, I kind of bulleted some things, and just to kind of reiterate all of those pieces, we've talked about the curriculum instruction. We've talked about kind of pros and cons of things going either direction. I loved Stephen's analogy of thinking about like the swim coach and having really great swim coaches, but one being kind of a generalist and kind of that elementary model, and one being a specialist or like that stroke specialist, and kind of looking at that as like the secondary teacher and having that in either setting. It's not better or worse, it's different. Talking about kind of that more general schedule, which elementary wise it tends to be math and ELA specific for elementary school students. And you tend to sometimes lose that science and that social studies piece. They do it, but it's smaller focused, where, as students get older, and again, looking at that secondary model, it becomes its own kind of class, specific purpose in that piece. So again, depending on where, each individual student is developmentally, where they're able to access instruction and information, I'm sure anyone could make an argument for any student on any given day of the week. You know, I listen, I listen to my own at home, and she's like, when can I go? Send the bus, like, I want to be there tomorrow. And I laugh, because it's like, no, like, that's not where we are right now, but, you know, you listen to kind of everything, and it's interesting. I also looked at, you know, trends in enrollment, and I think we kind of just had that discussion. I know people are building houses, I know there's things that are occurring, but historically, kind of looking at that 5-10 year kind of progression, it's declined kind of over time. And even though we've kind of stayed relatively stable, there hasn't been a huge kind of influx of enrollment. And then that bubble that we have kind of for those couple years, I'm wondering if it's going to be a bubble or if it's going to be kind of the trend where it does increase. And, you know, do we make a decision based on kind of a couple of years where things get crunched and kind of tight, or, you know, do we kind of look for like that long-term decision? And again, just weighing out those MSBA pieces in terms of the recent proposal submitted for 7 to 12, and then really holding true to our thought process behind school choice and kind of filling open classroom space and not obviously creating classrooms to kind of house, you know, new students and things like that. For me, it was never a concern about the schedule kind of supporting students. It was never a concern about their safety. It was never a concern about any of those things, because I feel like we have people that do a great job supporting students. But all of those pieces, I think, led me to exactly kind of where Audrey is too. And I said at the last meeting as well, like, unless I felt like I was at a place where I could check off all of those boxes, like we've exhausted every avenue, then I wouldn't feel comfortable making a decision that would be like the long term, this is kind of the only place we have to go.
Yeah, even as you're talking too, I'm like, I'm not saying that this is still a long-term solution, because at some point, the bubble of kids that we're seeing coming up, it might be something we're gonna have to revisit this. It's not, we're gonna have to keep talking about it.
So to be perfectly clear, regardless if we table a vote, if we have a vote, and this is not going away. This problem is not going away. You know, even if the ultimate decision is to move the sixth grade at this time, I still feel like there's potential impacts where that may not be a long-term solution based on like what we've said with MSBA situations or things like that. We don't know what we don't know, so that's.
Isn't that lovely?
Yeah, it's great. And the MSBA piece is one that I can't get over yet, and I know that we're hopefully close to hearing.
December is what we were told
So
from MSBA.
I don't want to just say, oh, wait until after we hear from MSBA or anything like that, but, you know, I don't know. George, do you have any thoughts or anything?
I mean, I've been listening and collating, I guess, is the best way of processing all the information as far as the choice. It is a big decision. It is a big decision. There's a lot of factors involved with it. Personally, I just, with the logistics of my career, we look at future-proofing things, and so making a decision that will just have to be revisited at a later point is typically not the way that I like to operate. So I'm leaning more towards the moving them, because in that way, it's not something we revisit every single year until it becomes an emergency situation where we have to make a choice. Also, growing up, I was an arts kid, music and theater and all that fun stuff, and having spoken with the music teacher on the other day during parent-teacher conference, like if he loses his classroom, that's huge. And just having that weighing on them as it could happen at any point. That's just, I guess, the way I feel about it. There aren't, the bigger picture way I look at it is that the advantages of moving them far outweigh the majority of the negative impacts, versus leaving them here. There aren't as many benefits as there are potential negatives for the overall student body and not just the sixth grade. Because then you're in effect, if you leave them here and we do have to put the music and art on trolleys, you're going to impact all of the kids for that experience for it. And then I also don't like making decisions on the variable of there might be a bad influence, or there might be that touchy subject aspect of, like, we don't make regulations and guidance based on the possibility that someone's not gonna follow the rules. Then nothing would ever function. And it's just like, right now, I'm one of the leads for the fall protection program at work. And one of the chiefs mentioned, hey, what if they don't use this device that we're spending millions of dollars to procure? It's like, well, we can't not do it because there's an off chance one individual is gonna be lazy about it and not operate it properly and fall off the aircraft or something to that effect. So that's where I sit on, I guess, is that, if that makes sense.
Oh,
It totally does.
totally does. And I mean, you bring up a good point. I'm revisiting the slides regardless. There's obviously, like, I wish there wasn't. There are implications no matter what. And we need to be very honest right now in the, if they stay here, if sixth grade remains, just what that may look like. And we said that we don't know what it definitely will look like, but there will be implications in either direction. Personally, for me, I feel like the implications are still not as, I would still rather personally them stay here and we figure out what those implications are. That's just, I've been very much in that headspace from the beginning. But again, it has nothing to do with safety-wise. I really was not concerned with as much of the day-to-day, but versus the true issue in the building, which was the space and is there space. And I've walked so many tours, I still very strongly feel like we can make space within the building. So for me, if it's what was better curriculum-wise or different, day-to-day things for the students, and if they, again, I have a sixth grader who would love to be over there and be in more challenged classes and things like that, but that's, to me, wasn't what brought this on. It was a space issue, and I just, from the beginning, I've been saying, I don't know if we have the capacity problem or more we're running out of room for our current structure, and can we think, differently about how we're using the rooms? And I personally feel like we can, though I know it would, impact potentially multiple grade levels. I don't think that impact outweighs what would impact moving a full grade level to the high school this early without it being as urgent of a matter as size-wise.
So let's regroup and revisit. Like Audrey said initially, starting it, if there's nothing done current state for the coming school year,
It's still a numbers game, because we don't know how many are at Children First, coming back to add to that.
But we
K
do know
group.
right off the bat, if we keep the structure, next year they need 3 sixth grades, and this year we only have 2.
Right, so this is that what if. So if kindergarten, current, goes to first grade and stays as 2, and the next kindergarten stays as 2, gained a classroom right there. If. Again, the numbers game. My favorite. And then it becomes, so if they then go from first to second, stay as 2, first grade stays as 2, and that K group again stays as 2, you're again gaining a classroom. Is that gonna uphold? Because it's the following year that we're back up to 58. And again, who knows, 52, wait a minute, 58, right?
52.
52. So even then, again, 52 is not my favorite for kindergarten, because that's 26 and 26, so are you back up to a third at that point, but you potentially have the room, but more people could move in? That's also 3 years away. Like, people could move out, people could move in, and then the following year, it's 58.
That's what I brought up last meeting, like, do we need 1 classroom or 2? Because
Right.
1, in my mind, I felt like, okay, we can make do with the space we have. So if it was 1, there we go. If it was 2, that gets trickier, but it is a numbers game. We know that. We do have control in a sense, within reason, of course, other than residents with the current K. And we know that even if we gained quite a few more, there's still a relatively small class.
Right. And if, as of last meeting, when I was saying I was split down the middle too, it's because I see these, and these are black and white numbers right now, But then my educational side, when we talk about challenging our kids more and a different, you know, having the swim analogy of, you know, those are those things too that I, as a educator and as a parent too, that I'm like, you know, that would be beneficial for a lot of students as well, not just, you know, my own as well. I mean, I have others up and coming up the pipeline as well. So, you know, that's where you start playing that game of, are those benefits that are worthwhile that all of our kids, our sixth graders, should be accessing and having, you know, Project Lead the Way and all of those things that they should be accessing? And why wouldn't we try to make sure that there's more of a middle school model so that they can have that benefit? So, but flip side, we would do that and then we would have empty spaces possibly here. So, I don't know. Do you want to say anything?
No, I think, like I've been saying, I think it's I think there's legitimate pros and cons to both sides, and whatever decision's made, we will make work, but it might come at the cost of some of the scenarios that we played out, be it a teacher being on a cart, be it bigger class sizes, be it using a non-traditional space for a classroom space. We can make it work.
I remember last week also thinking, obviously I was on the other side of the table 2.5 years ago myself, and very, I just felt like I wasn't really connected to how my child was going through school. Like I knew, yes, she was coming every day. With my current job, I don't get to get as involved and show up and be in the building as much as I wish I could. I don't get to drop off. I don't get to pick up. I have to say that through being at this table, I feel much more comfortable. I've gotten to know many of the staff over at the high school too than I ever was before. Going into this, you know, she's gonna be there next year, my oldest, either way. So I feel like that was like a good part of this process. So I mean, it's gonna happen anyway. They're gonna end up over there, so.
Well,
But I
think
just
we-
don't feel, I
We
don't feel
had such a
something pushing
different
me.
approach this time, and I mean, huge, and even today I was looking at that enrollment dashboard and what an asset that's been to be able to like constantly see the numbers and where we're at, so that, you know, we're always making like as informed decisions as we can. And our constant thank you to Stephen and Ally and everyone else that I've pestered asking all these questions and feeling like, you know, again, if they moved, I had no doubt that they will have a great education. I just don't know if that's necessary at this point. That's my 2 cents. So I'm good.
Any last words, last comment? Are we comfortable making a vote? Do we want to delay it another meeting? Do we want to ask other questions? I don't want anyone to feel forced.
I don't know that there's a need for another meeting or to kind of prolong this part of the process. I just think it's important that we're very clear that if there's a vote and a decision that's made at this point, it doesn't mean that it's going to be like the decision for all eternity. Because with numbers, with enrollment, with student needs, like it's kind of like that moving target and that ever-changing landscape that we need to constantly keep in mind when we're looking at budget, school choice, all of those pieces that we're responsible for here. And, you know, and even as, you know, Donna had talked about getting us those numbers as, you know, as kind of quickly as she can, because she knows how important that is for us kind of to continue that work here. Just knowing that it's at this point in time kind of look, but not maybe for all time. And I think sometimes people kind of hear one thing and they walk away with a like, great, like, we're good, we're all set, or I feel like this or that. And if there's continued discussion, it's like oh no, you know, like that was never said or never discussed. So I just want to make sure that that's like,
This is not going away.
like the transparency is out there and it's made abundantly clear. much as possible.
Well, and that goes right alongside with what the potential repercussions are of keeping them here.
Mm-hmm.
Which we all went over, was that our October 1st meeting?
Mhm.
Not 1st.
It was our first meeting in October, but I don't recall.
The 4th?
October 4th.
So, I just want to make sure.
And we
If-
said that document was available online too, right? I feel like I ask that every time.
I believe it was. I think he added it.
Sorry. I could look it up
It was
myself.
October 4th was our meeting. Just want to see. It's the same thing up there. Okay. I'm looking for one thing, so give me a second. I'm trying to. So, right now, if we were to change nothing, with the numbers that we have on, should I look on the enrollment dashboard, or is this slide, the census information slide, the one that we?
That's the one.
That is the census information, enrollment dashboard.
Dashboard.
Would it have, that would have.
I had asked about adding that on there last time. If
Yeah.
we could have like obviously knowing that that wouldn't change monthly like everything else does.
I've got my.
But on the bottom, it does say current K is 46, and
I've just got myself wrapped up here, so give me a second. I just need to, I'm trying to find something.
I can't find that doc.
It is in the agenda, it's in the 22-23 school committee agendas for October 4th.
Got it. At the bottom,
Yep,
because above is the Zoom links.
right, that has the video, and then under the agendas and minutes, it has
Yep.
the presentations.
Awesome.
I like how that's organized.
I do too. And we add the minutes in
Your
after they're
feedback led
approved
to
also.
that.
Hey, I wasn't gonna say it.
Own it while you can, Jill, just own it. Okay,
Folders with folders, my favorite.
so, all right. I just don't even know. Okay, so, are you guys ready? Do we need any more discussion? Any other questions? I guess my question is, going off what Audrey said and not having to do it, do we want to structure a vote that it starts, that a move would be not for 23-24? It would be for 24-25 based on numbers? Like, what are you all thinking? And then on our numbers that we have right now, if we do nothing, next year it's a one classroom issue, right?
Yes.
yes. if
So
the current-
basically, in order for that to work, there needs to be 2 first grades next year
And 2 kindergartens.
and 2 kindergartens only.
That's what I'm trying to find.
And personally, I would only like to vote for this current
Same.
school year. Like
Agreed.
for next school year. I
Yes.
would not want to
Me too.
vote for something that would be 2 school years from now. I think we'd have to revisit
Same.
a lot more information.
I don't think next year is not the potential for only 1K.
So there's
It'd be in 2 years.
there's 36 in K
But
right
again,
now,
That's 2 years out, so.
and pre-K is 35. Right now. So that would be 2.
But is
Right.
some of that,
Isn't there also,
some of that pre-K is 3 though? Not all of that pre-K is moving to kindergarten next year.
Correct.
oh, okay. I guess I missed that. Sorry. All right, well, if you guys are ready, I will be glad to hear the motion.
I guess so the motion would be that we are not moving the sixth
Maintaining the
grade,
current structure.
maintaining the current
Maintaining the
structure of East Meadow being a K to 6 school for the.
pre-K to
Pre-K to 6 school for the,
I would just remain,
right?
just,
But are we saying for any particular, for the, not just, that's it?
I think regardless of how we do it, I think it's going to have to be revisited, so you can put a school year around
For the
it.
23-24 school year?
Is that the right school year?
Next year,
Yeah.
yes.
and again, we do not all need to, this does not need to be a unanimous vote. Everyone has their own opinions, views, and definitely, George, I really appreciate your, again, yeah, no one wants to plan for an emergency, like you want to be planning ahead, and I totally appreciate your input on that. Just,
All right, so what is your motion?
Maintain.
Not
current
it.
structure.
all right, well, I will make a motion to maintain the current structure of East Meadow being a pre-K through 6 school for the forever. No, for the 23 to 24 school year.
Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Now the next,
We have to vote.
yes, we have to vote. So the question is, do you all want to do a roll call vote? I have to go last because I'm the chair, so if there's, like, I'm the tiebreaker. Yes, thank you.
Ms. Pelletier?
Aye.
Ms. Shudak?
Aye.
Mr. Balky?
Aye.
Ms. Karen?
Aye.
Ms. Barfoot?
Aye. All right, so add it back on the agenda for next week.
I was gonna say, can we just wait till 2023 to put it back?
Just say, can we, it'll be continued.
January.
Yeah, that's all right. We'll have a break from this for a few weeks, and then we'll see what the numbers look like again, and
You can always be part of our enrollment dashboard conversation.
yeah. Okay, superintendent's report.
So Marcus already stole my thunder a little bit. Granby boys varsity soccer is scheduled to play Smith Academy in the Western Mass Finals tomorrow. It's a 5:30 start at Agawam High School. So good luck to our boys and Coach Dorman. I'm sure they will play hard and hopefully bring home another trophy for the case. No school next Tuesday, it's election day. There will be voting at the junior, senior high school for the town of Granby, and our staff will be in professional development. And another reminder that next Friday, there's no school in honor of Veterans Day. And then, just to notify the committee, we talked to the leadership team already today. Adam received word today that capital improvement requests are due to the town by Monday, November 28th.
May I ask a question?
Yes,
So, capital requests.
yes.
Sorry. So we had some that were voted on and
Yes.
approved.
Yes,
Well, approved with a
Sure.
caveat.
yes.
There's been no action. Do we put those forth again as, because, or, I mean, like, I'm not sure, like, because,
We're functioning without a kitchen at one of our schools.
This is a,
well, because the other thing is that if this committee says no and doesn't go through, in my very limited understanding of how this stuff works,
It has to start again.
those requests, still need to be done.
I think if we don't know by the deadline, we can certainly put them back on there and withdraw them down the road if we have clarity around last year's vote. So,
I don't wanna,
In
I don't wanna,
addition
ti-
to other things that
right,
were-
I
because-
don't wanna take anybody
Right.
off, but at the same
Yeah.
time, I don't wanna lose sight of them, because those are two huge things for us.
Yep, I agree, so I would say yes, if we don't know by then, we would include them on the list that we're already gonna submit.
Can
Are
we,
we
like,
saying
star
don't
'em
know
or
by
something?
then, as in we don't have a meeting by November
28th?
which we don't have one scheduled currently, so
we did reach out to our liaison today, about the follow-up on that meeting, and, to loop him into negotiations as well. So I did send that email today at Jen's request.
And I think it's,
I didn't mean to side rail, but I'm just, you
No,
know,
and I
we
think
talk
we can
about.
add it,
we
and I
talked
think we've all
about it,
had
yeah.
an experience at the capital improvement meeting where things have been pulled off at that meeting, so it couldn't hurt to add them.
So the
until we
requests
have
are due,
clarity.
that's not the day of the meeting.
Correct.
Yeah, the requests are
meeting's
due-
usually in February,
Yeah, February.
March.
Okay, cause I, you know, put them on, star them, whatever,
Yeah.
because regardless of, you know, like, we're waiting for those,
Yep.
and if we have to restructure how they're written so that they're not as big, and then they can adjust the vote or whatever, we need to do something.
I
'cause it's
just
the
feel like it
kitchen and
also
the
puts like a
kitchen and gym.
conversation around it finally, too.
Yep,
So,
understood.
I just don't know, like, it's not my intent, I do not wanna irk anyone, I don't wanna upset
Yeah, I think-
anyone.
I think the priority now is making sure we get a date back on the calendar to have that joint meeting, preferably before the 28th, so that we have some guidance. If we don't, we can include them with the caveat, once we have that meeting, we'll remove them. Because we also said, you know, we'd stop asking for projects of that magnitude through capital improvement, because it's not fiscally responsible. Now, if we don't have a decision by then, and we really have no choice but to keep them on there to keep the conversation going, then so be it. But we are looking at more reasonable projects to
Certainly,
put
certainly,
through capital
certainly.
projects that I wanna make sure are included.
Right.
In addition with these.
Well, I
if we
think
have
those
that
other
meeting.
ones would be, take priority.
Yep.
But I just feel like they need to be asterisked or something,
Totally,
because,
totally agree.
you know, do we not have them be as massive?
Those two projects, I don't know that there's a way to make them smaller.
So here's the
Okay,
other
that's
thing,
fair. I
here's
just-
the other thing too, is that those costs, and this is gonna come up at whatever point we either move forward with those requests or future requests, the amounts that we submitted were part of a 2-year, essentially, price quote from when we got that stuff done. So,
We're past
those
that
amounts,
now.
even with that 2-year price quote and COVID and supply chain and all that stuff and higher costs are probably still, probably significantly less. So I just wanna make sure that what that amount is probably not gonna be the amount of what the project costs. Regardless, whether we resubmit or even move forward with them being approved as they were.
So how does that work then?
Well, I don't wanna get into it.
Okay.
Once
Yeah,
if
sorry,
it
sorry,
got
sorry.
approved,
Rabbit
we'd have
hole.
to go back out for
Rabbit
quotes and
hole.
all that stuff, so we get
Pulling my
updated
breath out
pricing.
of the
Yeah,
magic hat.
yeah.
Sorry, I'm
But
sorry.
again, let's get a meeting on the books, preferably before the 28th, and then that might guide us in how we move forward.
Okay, all right,
But it's
so
a
we
legit
have to,
concern.
hopefully we'll hear
Are
back.
we're gonna see them at our next meeting?
What's that?
What is on that doc? Capital
Capital
improvement
improvement
requests,
requests.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're gonna
that's our
have to
goal.
because, the 28th.
Yeah.
Because our last meeting's the 29th.
Right, so the 15th.
Yep.
Sorry.
No. Again, we just got we had been talking about it, but we just got the official letter today, kinda waiting on what that date was, even though it's typically the end of November.
So that's the Monday after Thanksgiving, yes?
Yes.
Right, which kinda,
Okay,
Tough.
sorry,
Tough,
I
yeah,
didn't
tough-
mean to interrupt
tough
you, I just,
deadline.
I'm so sorry.
Nope, that's why.
I'm glad
It
you
was-
did.
That's
Yeah,
why
so
I
they
was
were very
that's
timely.
why I was reporting these
it was
things.
not mine
Yeah.
anyway, so
Right.
Okay.
we would've,
No,
I
it's
pulled a
very
Marcus.
confusing.
yeah, that's okay, thank you. Already deleted off my list.
That's all I had.
I have one, which, I don't know when this will go out, but, PTO are you receiving info like that, Mr. Sullivan, too, about, events up and coming? I was thinking that during,
I received.
Marcus too, like whether or not like I should fill him in on any like PTO up and coming stuff, or if I should fill you in on any upcoming PTO stuff.
I would love to know. I
Okay.
received it from the,
I got all these documents in front of me.
like the last one from the
Parents'
message
night out?
from East Meadow.
Okay,
So the parents' night out, that's how I found
Okay.
out about it.
yes, okay. And did I miss that when you said this already? Am I
What's that?
floating? Oh my gosh. Did you talk about Parents' Night Out? And I like
No,
just.
no, he just said that the email was sent out.
Okay, well, that was my only like, throw that out there if you wanted to.
Parents' night out.
Yeah. Hint, hint.
Yep.
Help the girl out, please.
When is that?
November 18th or something?
Yes. It'll be
Friday,
Friday.
November 18th, 6 to 9.
PM.
Need to sign up by.
Ahead of time. Paper went home today.
Yep. Yep. Sorry.
Or you can check your email.
I have an email on this. I
Come
know
and
I
have a
don't.
few hours out
We just got
while we watch your
Yeah.
kids.
We just got it, it was over the weekend, or last night.
It just went yesterday. Yes. All right.
Sorry.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about that with Marcus, like, about like this week is Spirit Week at East Meadow too.
But he reports on the high school.
I thought he was doing a little bit of both,
Yep.
but
I
there
think
was-
it's what he gets.
Okay.
right.
And I
So
know he
whether or
meets
not
with
we-
Ally. I don't know that he's reached out to
Okay.
Lisa.
That
So,
was like
Parents'
one of
Night
my-
Out is
yeah.
Friday, November 18th, 6 to 9 p.m. It's in the East Meadow cafeteria. There is a cost that it's $20 for your first child, $15 for each additional child. There will be snacks, movies, games, and crafts. It is childcare for students grades K and up. Children must be able to use the bathroom independently. And you do need to submit a reservation by Friday, November 4th.
Which is this Friday.
Yes,
This
which is
Friday.
this
I know, that's why I
Friday.
said by the time this records and comes out or whatever anyway, but.
Yep.
Oh, I guess I just have one other thing too, just a quick question. And I meant to bring this up to Marcus too, because I felt like I saw him so much this week. It was so great with field day and then trunk or treat. Trunk or treat, I had quite a few people reach out. I know that it was hosted here, it was great, but about just on the forefront for next year, if there's a potential of other people being able to participate, or kind of how we could potentially grow it a bit for next year. A
I
lot of
think they actually tried to scale it back from last year, which is why there were fewer cars this year, but I can certainly get some more information.
I just like I had a lot of people reach out being like, is it only staff? Like, would there ever be an opportunity for, parents if people wanted to participate? Some of the high schoolers did a great job, but then we're like, I know that some others were like, oh, we would have done it too if we had kind of gone ahead of time.
And I know they had put out some signups for cars a
Yeah,
few
there was a sign up that
times.
went out.
Yes.
But is
So
that
I-
to parents or is
That's-
it just to the students?
No, it was, I guess I don't know, but I saw something like for your group, I don't know if it was like PTO or Booster Club or something, like, I
And
feel like that was
yeah.
referenced.
And I
don't
think
know
they
if
are
were there. I
trying to
didn't go.
keep it just to students and staff who have the cars. But, yes, I can try to get more information, but it was really,
How was the
Chief
turnout?
O'Grady. It was good while I was there. I was there, but it was a little later than it was in the past, so I think there were some trick-or-treating conflicts. But I was there from 4 to 4:40 or so, and it was a good turnout while I was there.
Cool.
All right, and thank you for coming, because I know you have little kids too that
Of
could
course.
probably need help getting dressed and getting out the door.
Yeah.
Your wife must love that.
Of course.
So
Happy to be there.
I appreciate it, and thank you. Could I use that as my opportunity of like, hey, maybe you should, check out some houses and, no, I'm just kidding.
All right, you're finally up.
You good?
Yes,
Okay.
sorry.
Our FY '22 end of year report was submitted on 10/28 to the state, signed certification sent to them, so we had an extension through the 14th. Chris had been out for a little while, so we're all set. We did meet with when I say we, myself and John met with Dick from the Board of Health last week, and then John met with the building inspector to see if we could possibly use a portion of the kitchen, and we will not be able to use any portion of that kitchen per the building inspector.
Crap-a-doodle.
Building
we-
inspector, not Board of Health?
Well,
Sorry, I didn't mean
no,
to.
Dick was on
Dick
board.
Bombadier's Board of Health.
Dick was on board with our plan, and not that Greg, the building inspector, wasn't. It's just not a space that we should be using, which is okay. It's what we wanted to make sure we exhausted all our options to kind of help Ken and his team out, but it's just not something that we can do. I'm gonna meet with Ken and John to kind of go over, see what we can do to free up some space with them. They've ordered some equipment, so we're gonna come up with another tentative plan to get them through the year again. But part of that larger discussion about capital requests and kitchen and all that stuff. So unfortunately, we're not gonna be able to use it, which I'm not surprised about. Lastly, Chartwell's, when Ken and Chris were here a few weeks ago, they did mention about a possible salary increase for their staff. So we put that on the agenda for next meeting. I'll provide some numbers to see what the impact will be. But honestly, it fell off my radar. Ken had sent me an email following up, and I told him I apologize, fell off the radar. So I wanted to bring it back to your guys' attention, and we can talk about it next.
So can that raise come out of the surplus that we're getting with the free lunch? Not
Yeah, so
really?
essentially it'll be a change in the contract, right? So we'll have to.
We don't have to go
amend
back out
the
to bid or anything, right?
No,
We'll just amend-
no, we
okay.
just have to amend the contract,
Okay.
and I'll find out how all that works in the meantime. But yes, we have a surplus in that account, so
Okay.
we are.
I feel like this is the first year you guys haven't talked about being in the red in September too with that account, right?
Last year.
Last year was the
Last year was
first
the
year,
first
yeah.
one.
But since, yeah. Capital improvement request, but we already talked about that, so
Okay.
I'm good.
Jill?
We meet the 16th.
Okay. So we won't be able to, let's see, I won't remember on the 15th, and I'll ask you again, and it'll
No
be for
problem,
the-
I'll tell you we'll meet tomorrow.
Okay. All right, anything else? So we have, we want to discuss, lengthening the, application approval for McDuffie and Children First for the next agenda. Anything else for the agenda? I guess we can remove the East Meadow School capacity for now. We'll just keep an eye on that, maybe put a tickler and talk about it.
I missed the first part you were saying, creating the new subcommittee, was that on there too? Is that what you
No, I
said?
haven't gotten that far
Okay,
yet.
sorry.
January or February, to talk about school capacity. And then we need to have the subcommittee meeting for the next time. So subcommittees, which ones we need to have a discussion about adding the new,
I almost wonder if that meeting, can we have the discussion about the new subcommittee first, assign it, and then that subcommittee even possibly meet that night?
I don't see why not.
Okay.
And then, so we'll have the school committee goals, committee, and then should we have budget? So we'll just have those two?
And possibly the new subcommittee that would
Well,
meet, right?
that's gonna be it, your school
Right.
committee goals, one will be,
No, I'm talking about,
The school committee goals falls under evaluation. We can kind of lump it under there. It was the
Thank you.
handbook.
right, the person that's going to work on the.
yeah, my
sorry.
bad,
Yeah, I don't know what we want to call it, but just
Right.
naming it something.
okay.
The new school committee member, committee? What?
Onboarding?
Sound good.
That's what I was
I'm gonna
thinking.
workshop
Yeah.
that one a little.
Question mark, question mark.
The
Hashtag
onboarding,
backslash.
onboarding committee.
Onboarding, school committee onboarding committee, I like that.
I'm glad you approve.
Because we were already going with it.
We'd already gotten that way. So it'll be the onboarding, committee and the budget, committee for the next time. Are we good? Is there anything else that needs to?
Are we gonna do onboarding, budget, and goals?
No, I was calling it the wrong thing.
But I think
But we need to finalize the goal situation doc, so 3.
if we can, yeah, depending on who does what.
Right,
We
we
can.
can split time.
So we'll
too.
we'll have to see how,
Yeah.
how it works and who
Yes.
ends up being on that
But I would
one.
list it as hopefully the 3.
Okay. Anything else for next time?
I think so.
All right. Well, with that, we're gonna vote to enter into executive session under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Part A3, to discuss strategy with regard to collective bargaining, as doing so in an open session may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the committee. The committee will not return to open session. Thanks. Oh, aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.